The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. The handwriting is on the wall. If the human race is ever going to amount to anything, it needs
the most civilized caveman I have ever seen.
Look who's come out of his cave.
Hey everyone, this is James from Cave Dweller Music. I got another interview lined up today with Pooyan from Iran. He's going to tell us a bit about his band Bloody Sadism and the Iranian metal scene. Unfortunately, Brendan's running a bit late, so he might be on the call a bit later, or it could just be me today. So welcome to the show, and it's good to have you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. This is Pooyan Ahmadi, founder of Bloody Sadism from Iran. I'm glad to talk with you.
Fantastic. So just going to start off by asking, what got you into music or the music industry? So how did you become an artist, essentially?
It was about 13 years ago, and I was, at the school, and do you hear me?
Yes. Hear you just fine.
Sorry, because our internet connection is so weak, and I'm worried about that.
If there's any issues, I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I started playing classical guitar, and I started it by myself. And then I decided to go to some, an institute, and to, learn how to play guitar, academically, And when I was about 14 or 15, I started to, my cooperation with, different artists, and, I started recording classical guitar. And in 2014, I started Bloody Sadism project. And in 2019, I released my debut album via Bass Record production label from Spain. And I've worked with, more than 30 bands since 2009.
What made you decide to be an individual artist or a solo artist instead of being in a band? So why did you go out on your own?
Because, in Iran, we don't have a great drummer who can play, these kind of lines, gravity, brass beats, and other techniques. I can play, electric guitar, classical guitar, bass guitar, and I can, do the vocals, I like to be alone in this project, do whatever I want.
So creative control.
That's it. Sense. I like my, loneliness.
Sure. No, that makes sense. We actually talked to quite a few solo artists or individual artists, and most of them say it's the same thing. They have a vision in their head and an idea of what they want, and that's why they do it, because they can create exactly what they want, how they want to do it.
It's so hard in Iran to find a mate, bandmate who can understand your, specific opinions about different issues. And, I don't like the struggle between the bandmates. And so it's good to be alone.
You touched on a topic there that we want to actually talk about today, which was, did you want to sort of explain to the listeners what the metal scene and the music scene in general in Iran is like?
We can call it semi-official scene in Iran. And, it's some kind of, hard to be a, metal musician in Iran, because we don't have, how can I explain that? Official market for metal music, and we don't have a good copyright. We just download every album that we want. It's not good for us, and we don't have, big scenes and, gigs or festivals or whatever you call it, like Wacken or, Death Fest or whatever, something like that. We have small scenes or, stages, and we have to be permitted and actually get the permission to, for shows or for releasing an album. And, it's too difficult to earn money. And we have to, we should to have a main job to, earn money. and spend it in our, what we can say, in our favorite, in our love, for our love, you know?
So are you saying that to release an album or play a concert, you have to actually get permission to do so each time?
Yeah.
And who do you get permission from?
There is some, you know, it's called something like an organization, you know? I never, followed that because music is not my, main job. I wasn't for that. I wasn't looking for that. So forget about that. Please, next question.
So what exactly got you into metal? Like, which bands influenced you, and how did you go from sort of more mainstream music to discovering the world of metal?
When I was younger, bands like Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel, Tiamat, and Guns N' Roses,
great bands.
They were, and they still are, how can I say that? Very special bands in their own genre. So, what was the other part of the question?
Who do you say sort of influenced you the most in your music? So, which of those bands that you love sort of drove your direction of your band?
Yeah, Cannibal Corpse is my, the most influencer because of the, pure brutality and candor. There something specific cover albums and, something about torture and, gore and, zombies and something like that. Something, that we have to be about fear and panic and terror, it's good for me. I enjoy it.
I understand. A lot of people feel the same way. So there is a huge market for like horror and gore metal and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the next thing I want to know was regarding sort of the scene there. Do you get acts from neighboring countries coming to tour, and do you tour around other countries surrounding Iran, or is it more so everything's in Iran and everything? Each of those countries have their own individual scenes?
In Iran, I can't play because I'm not interested to play in Iran. But I had some shows. I've been booked about 6 months ago for 2 shows in Turkey, and
cool.
Unfortunately, the show canceled because of this kind of virus, coronavirus, and I will play on Barca Metal Festival about 3 weeks after. It's an online show, and I'm planning to play in other countries, but during this kind of pandemic virus or whatever you want to call it, right now I can't say the exact or something like that. Let's see what will happen in the future.
Right. I think a lot of artists are in the same position at the moment with international touring and live shows. Everything's sort of in limbo at the moment, but I hope that you can sort that out and get back on the road again. We'd like to know a little bit more about your full-length release that came out last year. Did you want to tell us a bit about your album?
Yeah. Tricity, it released via Base Record Production and a Spanish label. And the story of the album is about, something, we can say about a man who is, fight, or we can say struggle or something like that, with himself in his, own mind. And he's alone. Did you listen to the album completely?
Yes, I did. Yeah, we wrote the review for it up, and I listened to the whole thing before we did that. Yeah.
Oh, great. Sorry. I remember that now. Sorry. And
that's okay. No problem.
And sorry. If you listen to it through the first track of the album, there's a man who is, living alone in his own room, and he goes to, restroom. And after that, the brutality begins. Second track is about same name for the album, Tricity, and it's about something like misogyny, sexual sadism. The third track called Ecstasy. It's about something anti-drugs and somebody who survives from the addiction of drugs. Track number 4 is about misogyny and sexual sadism. Track number 5 is about sexual sadism. Track number 6 about that killer who tries to suffer and suffocate somebody. It depends on you that you see the the subject is male or female. There's no difference. It doesn't matter. Track number 7 is about misogyny, torture, gore. For me, I try to mix them up with each other. And track number 8, bipolar disorder, is 2 kind of mood that the killer have during that part that time. Track number 9, Lucid Dream, is about that same brutality, misogyny, sexual sadism, or whatever you want to call it. After the first part of classical guitar part, there will be his regret about bad things and whatever you want you can hear before that. And track 10, the outro, is about that his soul or maybe his mind is dead. The killer doesn't can't feel anything. And the album finished.
And I was just going to say, did you want to tell us a little bit about the recording process? Because obviously you played all of that yourself. So how did you do that at home, or were you in a studio, or how did you record the album?
It was in 2018, in the August or September, maybe. I can't remember the exact date that I went to Thames Studio. It's for one of my best friends. Talked to them and I told them that I want to record the first album, the debut album, at their studio. So I began recording in his studio. I started from track number 2, Eloquent Atrocity, to the end of the track number 9, Lucid Dream. And first of all, I recorded for each track. I recorded track by track. First track I recorded left guitar and right guitar, the bass line, and after that I went for the other tracks. After all of the tracks recording finished, I started actually with my friend. We started drum programming, and after that I started vocals recording, and then I waited for them to finish the mixing and mastering processes.
Did you release the album yourself? Like, did you get pressings done and then send them out, or did you go through an agency or before the label, or did you go straight through the label right from the start?
What do you mean of agency?
Like a PR agency?
No.
Did you?
First of all, when the album was ready, I released a single track of the album, and after that, with a promo video, I sent them to different companies or labels or whatever you call it. Some offers. I decided to work with basically a Spanish label.
And that's who you've been with since then, haven't you? They're handling all your international distribution, aren't they?
But the international distribution is, it's the label's job. It's not my job.
Right.
They did the distribution, and I tried to do some self promote for the album. I don't have any kind of agent or something like that. I do everything by myself.
Great. That's sort of what I was getting at. The other thing I wanted to ask was, on the album, I noticed, well, this is maybe just the way I viewed it, you had some sort of slam death influences there. Is slam sort of a style of music that you listen to, or is it just the groovy elements that you kind of ended up putting into the album without even realizing?
I'm not the fan of slam music. I love slam music, slam metal, slam death metal, slam grind.
Right.
One of the other bands that inspired me for about 6 or 7 years is Devourment. When you know,
Yes, great band.
you know, the groovy style of them and the nasty sound of guitars and the nasty sound of snare, you know, they make me, you know, happy and, you know, something wild. You know, it's good for me. I enjoy them.
No, they're a great band. And I just have to ask, this is a band that I like in that genre. Have you heard of Abominable Putridity?
They're from Russia, right?
Yes, yes, they are.
I've listened to some of their songs and they are great. They're really great.
Yeah, they have a lot of really good groove segments and really like fast-paced, really aggressive, but also at the same time kind of catchy.
Yeah, right. They are, you know, something groovy. They do something groovy. It's good.
Those groove elements is something that I picked up from your album. And for me personally, that was what I really liked about your release, was the fact that you had a lot of aggression. It was pretty raw, but you also had like some really great groove elements and some really catchy segments, which broke it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
What have you got coming up? Are you working on any new material, like any other releases in the future?
You know, I have new material or stuff. And I can't say the exact date for the, you know, next album, but there will be more stuff. Definitely, I will try to do the arrangement of the song soon. You know, at this moment, I'm some kind of tired. After the album, I had another cooperation with other bands like War Angel, and we released actually a heavy thrash metal album in the summer. It was in July. After many recordings, you feel something, you know, you need, you know,
right
during this, you know, pandemic, you know, sickness, you know, I feel more depression and I need, you know, something new and, you know, a recovery to be full of energy for the next stuff, you know. But I promise to you and all of the fans from around the world that the next album will be more brutal and more technical and much better than the, you know, the debut album.
That's great to hear. That album you mentioned, the thrash one that you put out, what is the title of that one? And where can people listen to that?
They can listen to it on YouTube and Bandcamp and Spotify and, you know, other platforms.
Okay, great. And your Bloody Sadism album, that's on all platforms as well, isn't it? Because I listened to it on Bandcamp, but I think it's also on Spotify and YouTube as well.
No, Bloody Sadism is not available, you know, on Spotify or iTunes. It's available on, you know, physical, you know, copies around the world, and you know, you can listen for free on my Bandcamp, bloodysadism.bandcamp.com. Many of the people they have downloaded it, and it's available in different websites. But it will be available maybe in 2021, actually 2021, different platforms like Spotify or iTunes or whatever, Deezer or something like that. I don't know many of those sites, you know, sorry about that. But it will be available.
So just before we wrap up, Brendan had a question he wanted me to ask you, which was, if you could work with any musician on a project, who would it be?
You know, it's so hard to choose between your friends when somebody asks you this something. But it's one of my, you know, dreams to work with, you know, Pat O'Brien, Webster. They are, you know, they are amazing. You know, I can't just let it go. How Pat O'Brien plays guitar like that, you know, it's so great. And it's one of my dreams to, you know, play with him or meet him. You know, it's great. It was a very hard question.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, if it makes it any easier as well, you can list off a few other ones you'd like to work with, but that's up to you.
Yeah. But Pat O'Brien is my, you know, my legend.
Okay, well, it's good to hear that you have someone that you want to work with so strongly. The other question he had for you was, as a solo artist, what is your favorite instrument to play when you do your recording?
Another hard question. What are you doing, my friend? What are you doing to me?
This is you have Brendan to thank for these ones.
It's like to ask from a father or a mother that you have to choose between your kids. They can do it, but I love play any kinds of guitars. It doesn't matter for me, actually. I can't choose. I really can't choose
between acoustic and electric.
Between acoustic and electric is better.
Okay, that's good to hear. Electric probably makes more sense for you with the type of music that you play, because it gives you more, lets you make heavier, groovier, more aggressive music. And he actually had one more for you, which was, who is your guilty pleasure band? So what's the band that you listen to that you don't want other people to know about?
Who is my favorite guilty pleasure band? What do you mean of guilty pleasure?
So this is a band that you listen to that you wouldn't necessarily tell your friends that you listen to because you might be embarrassed.
My favorite band, many of my friends, they don't listen to metal music. But, when I want to, recommend them to listen to some band, let me see, which genre? It doesn't matter for you?
Any genre.
For
any genre,
because I'm a fan of, I really like Hatebreed.
Oh, great! Brendan loves Hatebreed as well.
And if I want to commend people to listen to metal music, Slayer, Brain Drill, they are great. I'm trying to remember their name. It's so hard for me, Another hard question from you. Death, Devourment, Dying Fetus. A band in doom metal genre is Sadness, right? Sadness is great.
Yep.
Ural. I'm an old fan of Ural. Maybe you don't, pronounce its name like this. Ural or Ural or Ural or Aral or whatever you want to call it,
And what about outside of metal? Do you have any bands that you would recommend or that you listen to outside of the metal genre, or is it all just metal?
Outside of metal genre, I can't remember anything. Sorry. Because
no, that's fine. That's no
because
problem.
Because nowadays, teenagers and young people try to, listen to some stuff like Justin Bieber or some stupid shit like that. And what can I say to them? I have these kinds of problems in the other parts of my life, like movies. When people ask me which movie did you watch last week, for example, I will tell them I drive, and they say, "Wow, Taxi Driver, it's so nasty. It's a foolish movie," they say, but it's a great movie for me, and I learn many things from those kinds of movies. Did you know many of our people haven't watched Godfathers? What can I recommend them, and what can I say to them? Forget about that. Next question.
That was pretty much everything that Brendan had. I mean, his other question was, how has COVID affected you? But I think you kind of talked about that already earlier with one of your other answers, that you had your tour cancelled, and it's been quite hard for you to work and travel.
But other artists from around the world, they've been affected more than me because I can't, if there wasn't any kind of this sickness like COVID, I couldn't play, and I wasn't interested in playing in Iran. But they've been their shows have been cancelled. Obscene Extreme, I think it has been cancelled. Many other shows has been cancelled. But I've been, updated with this kind of situation in Iran. I can't feel their exact opinion about this situation. Our system is so different.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, man. Didn't mean to interrupt the everything there. I just got back, and James and I apparently suck at math a little bit, and we're like, all right, I'll be ready for 2:00, and then yeah.
Yeah, we messed up with the time zone conversion a little bit on our side, so sorry about that.
No problem.
But Brendan, I asked a bunch of your questions before we start recording again. I'll just let you know what we've covered, in case you have anything else you want to ask today.
Gotcha.
We talked about favorite instruments to play,
Gotcha.
Promoting music, who you'd like to play with in his band.
Yeah.
And guilty pleasure band. I mean, we're just on the topic of COVID now.
Okay.
So is there anything else you want to ask?
Well, we already got a lot of that stuff covered, I guess. Yeah, how has COVID affected you as being a musician? That's all I could come up with right away. I guess.
And looks like we've just had Brendan come on the call, and he is just in time to ask the final question of the interview.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I would want to know is like how COVID has affected you being a musician, because it's affected a lot of people in different ways, and some of it negative, some of it positive, and just want to know your input and feelings on how everything has been going with you due to COVID.
Actually, it has, many good effects and many bad effects for me. It was about 7 months ago. It was in March that our New Year, it's something like your Christmas. We had to stay at home for about 3 weeks. All of the, companies and many of the jobs were closed for 3 weeks. I wrote some stuff during that time. It was good for me to be free and do my favorite job, that is music.
Yep.
And I was going to, play in 2 shows in Turkey in April, but they canceled.
And if there's nothing else that you have to share today, we just want to thank you for coming on the show and remind everyone to check out your album, which is Eloquent Atrocity.
So
that's on Bandcamp for anyone wants to give that a listen. Physical copies are available as well. And keep an eye out for future projects from this guy right here. He has some cool stuff in the works. And that's about it for us today. Tune in next time for another interview, and thanks for listening. And thank you, Pooyan, for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you so much. Man.
Thank you so much thank you both of you for giving me this chance, and thank you for your support. And it was my pleasure to talk with you. Actually, talk to you, and I'm so glad about this conversation. Hope people like it.
Oh, I'm sure they will. We don't really get to hear much of the world as far as metal music goes and what the scene and the culture's like. So it's going to be really interesting for a lot of people to listen to.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see what will happen.